1991 was a big year for Guns N' Roses. The band released their long-awaited full-length follow-up to 1987's Appetite for Destruction, the epic double album Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. But 1991 also proved to be a tumultuous year for the band, and prior to the album coming out, original guitarist and the real soul of the group, Izzy Stradlin, quit. The band would strangely hit the road even before the double album was finished, and Rose would claim his manager would book a tour without his permission, and this resulted in Rose firing the band's longtime manager Alan Niven in May of 1991. This was just the tip of the iceberg. Izzy Stradlin was the real heart and soul of the band and would quit just before the Use Your Illusion albums came out, and to top things off, the band would incite a riot in St. Louis in the summer of 1991. On July 2nd, 1991, the band pulled into the Riverport Amphitheater in St. Louis. Now keep in mind the Riverport Amphitheater was a newly built venue and Guns N' Roses were just the second band to play there. And even prior to the riot, Guns N' Roses were notorious for their reputation, which included internal fighting, drug and alcohol abuse, and their onstage antics, which would dominate headlines. Not to mention the hugely inflammatory song One in a Million from their 1988 EP GNR Lies with its controversial lyrics were still haunting the band. The concert seemed to start without many issues, but 90 minutes into their set, the band was performing Rocket Queen from their debut album Appetite for Destruction, and halfway through the chorus, Rose would notice a fan taking photos in the audience and screamed at security to remove the camera from the overzealous fan. But security wasn't complying, and Rose would end up taking things into his own hands, and he would jump into the audience and got into a scuffle with the fan trying to take the camera away. Here's footage of the moment Axel points out the fan to security.
Hey, take that! Take that! Now, get that guy and take that! I'll take it, goddammit! Well, thanks to the lame-ass security, I'm going home. We're out of here.
Following the event, Rose would claim to have pointed the fan out to security several times during the concert before Rocket Queen. The fan's name was Stump, who was a biker from a local chapter called Saddle Tramps. At one point during the concert, Stump even gave his card to Rose prior to the band performing You Could Be Mine, where Rose seems visibly annoyed, as you can see in this clip.
Well, what am I supposed to do with it? Huh? That was worth fucking interrupting me for, I guess. No, it wasn't, dude.
The band would later claim that they would be hit with bottles from the audience as well, and as Rose would stumble back on stage, he would announce the concert was over and would slam the microphone down and walk off stage, announcing an end to the show. Rose would later recall, the security guys knew exactly what was happening, and they were doing everything they could to let that guy go, which fueled my fire to make sure that didn't happen. Unfortunately, things didn't end there. Frustrated by the shortened set, the Riverport crowd erupted into a full-scale riot, and local journalist Daniel Dershowitz recalls the venue's plastic seats being torn from their moorings and skimmed into the security's faces. Police officers would arrive to form a protective barrier attempting to quell a crowd now chanting obscenities at the cops. It didn't work. Soon rioters were overtaking the stage, tearing down video screens and climbing gantries. And Dershowitz would write in Billboard, a fire hose was rolled out on stage, the idea being that to blast anybody who dared to try and break the cops' perimeter. Unbeknownst to them, there was almost no water pressure. Now, one man jumped on stage and stepped into the ineffective stream and then pulled down his pants and waved his privates at the cops. We watched as revelers swung from the cables underneath the 60-ton sound and light rig, which lurched sickeningly from side to side. A tech told us if the rig comes down, there will be massive death. Other fans chose to loot the stage instead, making off with any equipment that hadn't already been destroyed. One witness recalled seeing an entrepreneur flogging GNR piano keys in the parking lot for $5 a piece, while others tore up the turf outside the venue and lit fires. And one Guns N' Roses fan would recall, the band just grabbed the vintage guitars they had and that was it. And people were rolling out 4x12 cabinets and monitor mixing boards, and that was just hilarious. It was sort of white trash Fellini film. The band themselves would flee in a minivan across the border to Illinois, where they would be holed up for the next several days. And the band's gig would be about a week later in Dallas. And that was a very tense show. And here's Axl's rant from that show talking about what happened a week prior in St. Louis.
For the last few days, when I'm watching CNN and I'm reading this shit in the St. Louis papers and other papers, how I incited a riot. And then they're talking about, and in the band they have a recovering heroin addict, and once Axl Rose was seen driving down the street in a Jeep yelling obscenities at his former wife. What the fuck does that have to do with St. Louis? And I had to realize that no matter what we did tonight, and how good or how bad we played, that there'll probably be one person in the press here that for some reason didn't dig it, and he'll write about something else, and he'll write some lies. Now wait a minute. At the same time, where that won't have a whole lot of effect on Dallas, and it shouldn't fuck with me, it fucks with the entire fucking thing called rock and roll in general. Because who are the main people that watch these news things and read this shit? They're all about, they're all in their 40s to 50s, sitting there eating their fucking bran flakes and drinking their coffee. And I ain't knocking getting old. We all get fucking old, it's a fact of life. Unless you fucking die before you get there, you're gonna get old. But just because you get old doesn't mean you have to deny young people their humanity. It's like the school teacher that sits home and watches Eddie Murphy and says fuck and everything else, but then he goes to school and some kid says, oh shit, and then he gets whacked in the principal's office, What the fuck is that? And so now there's a lot of people reading these negative things about Guns N' Roses, and they don't know shit they can't tell the difference from Guns N' Roses to Warrant. But if their kid likes Guns N' Roses, he's gonna get smacked in the head or something. Because in the paper it said it was an evil thing. And that really makes me go, fuck, what is the point? Well, I'll tell you what the point is. The point is that we're up here and what we're doing is something that is dying in America. It's something that's called, it's okay. It usually stays at an underground level, but it usually doesn't get as successful as Guns N' Roses, and that's something called freedom of expression. And basically, that's all we fucking are. Guns N' Roses is just a prime fucking example of freedom of expression. But there are a lot of people that they want to deny that. So basically they're going to say that Axl Rose lied about this, they lied about that, when actually they're going to tell you half-truths. They'll tell you he got in a fight with a parking attendant. They won't tell you that 15 parking attendants jumped him and wouldn't let him into his own concert, They'll just tell you he got in a fight with a parking attendant. They'll say he jumped in the crowd on somebody. He won't tell you that he jumped in the crowd because security was beating the fuck out of an innocent kid. I thought that was America was supposed to be about. Standing up for yourself and standing up for each other. I thought that's what the fuck America was supposed to be about. I'm sorry that I guess I learned the wrong lesson. I guess I learned that I should kiss ass. I should do exactly what I'm told to do by somebody who doesn't know shit. And I should write kiss ass wimpy puss songs so we can be successful and everybody will like it and it's safe. They helped kill Jim Morrison with a lot less pressure. our songs. I mean, we'll tell you if the song is a joke or it's just a joke, don't take it seriously. But most of the time, these songs are something that we dug real deep to find in ourselves. And when that gets denied...
At the end of the day, 65 people would be injured, including 25 police officers, which set in motion an arrest warrant for Rose, albeit one that was delayed until about a year later when he was arrested returning from Europe where the band was on tour. Here's an interview that Axl did with Kurt Loder on MTV following his arrest.
I'm Kurt Loder with MTV News. Guns N' Roses singer Axl Rose was arrested at New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport on Sunday morning as he disembarked with his girlfriend, model Stephanie Seymour, and her 2-year-old son from a Concorde flight from Europe, where the couple had been vacationing prior to the start of a Guns N' Roses tour with Metallica, which is scheduled to get underway this coming Friday in Washington, D.C. A warrant for Rose's arrest had been issued several months earlier by a prosecutor in St. Louis, who had been trying for months to get Rose to return to that city to face misdemeanor assault and property damage charges stemming from a riot that erupted at a Guns concert there 1 year ago. Rose was jailed in New York for 10 hours, then released on $100,000 bail, following which he hopped into a limousine headed for a Manhattan hotel. And we hopped in with him. Actually, you all right?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
What happened?
Awesome. The prosecutor reneged on a promise he made. I'm going there on the 15th, and he said this wouldn't happen, and he lied.
You gonna be out soon?
I think so.
Rose had been arrested on an outstanding warrant issued months ago by a prosecutor in St. Louis named McCulloch, who'd been trying for nearly a year to get Rose to return to that city to answer to 4 misdemeanor assault charges and 1 misdemeanor property damage charge stemming from a riot at a Guns N' Roses concert in St. Louis last July. After 3.5 hours at the Queens Courthouse, Rose was released on $100,000 bail and an agreement that he would finally fly back to St. Louis this week, as he'd already planned to do. We jumped into a limo with him for an exclusive interview on the way back to his hotel in Manhattan and asked him how he'd been treated in jail. What do they do when they put you in jail? Did you have a cell by yourself, or were there other people? Did you get to talk to any other inmates or anything?
No, I basically spent my time writing autographs for cops and talking with them about rock and roll. I met all these really cool cops that were telling me all about when they went to Woodstock and everything. It was great. New York cops are the best.
The question in many observers' minds, of course, was why Rose didn't just return to St. Louis to plead his case months ago. According to Rose, it's taken this long to work out an ironclad deal, which, as things stand now, means a sentence of 2 years probation reduced to 1 year.
We've just been waiting till, to get the case somewhat solidified and in writing before we go, because I don't want to go there and get set up. You know, well, you come here, it's going to be like this, and then it's a whole different story, and you end up sitting in St. Louis for a long time.
What does probation mean? You can't come back to St. Louis and do something bad, or you can't do something bad anywhere in the country?
It's like anywhere. It's anywhere, but I'm not really worried about any of that because I really don't spend my time breaking the law, so I'm not really worried about that. It just depends on, if you play someplace where somebody doesn't like rock and roll or Guns N' Roses, they could say I did something, You never know what will happen with that.
And what exactly happened at that St. Louis concert 1 year ago? Did Rose provoke a riot, or was he simply reacting to a collapse in concert security? Here's what he told us.
We have tape of one guy on stage with a knife, and we lost $1 million worth of equipment in that show. And I don't see anybody else taking any responsibility for anything. I'm saying, yeah, I jumped off stage, and yeah, things went haywire after that. And maybe I could have handled it better or whatever, but no one was really handling anything at that point. So I took it into my own hands with what I could do. And what crossed my mind that time, because I've been pretty much pushed to the limit by their lack of security. But I don't see anybody else in St. Louis really taking any responsibility for anything that happened.
And by late 1993, Axl would reach an out-of-court settlement with Stump in a civil lawsuit that Stump had filed, claiming that he was injured when Axl jumped off stage and attacked him for taking pictures. Stump apparently received an undisclosed amount of money, as well as Axl's autograph for his scrapbook. So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And as always, let me know which stories you'd like to see me feature in future episodes of Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.